Welcome to Money 911, the podcast where we tackle financial questions and dilemmas head on. I'm your host, Kris Miller, and today we have a special guest who is here to help you navigate the complex world of Medicare. Tracy, our guest today, began her journey with Medicare after caring for her father in 2010. Her mission is to ensure that you make the right choices when it comes to your Medicare plan and avoid the common pitfalls that can cost you dearly. Tracy, it's fantastic to have you on the show. Welcome everybody to Money 911, and you heard the beautiful intro about my guest, Tracy. And Tracy, I'm really, really glad that you showed up today, and you have so much to share with pretty much a very big population. A lot of people need to know this information. Maybe you could share a little bit about your personal journey, like what inspired you to dive in the world of Medicare after caring for your father?
Well, journeying through somebody's health decline, I like to say on their way to heaven,
Yes.
is a very hands-on approach. And what you learn right away is that it's not cheap to get sick. And you can make a mistake and pick the wrong plan. And while you're doing the cooking, cleaning, caring, driving to appointments, hospitalization stuff, the last thing you want to worry about is how much it's going to cost.
Right.
And frankly, my dad was wealthy, hardworking child, a Horatio Alger. He started with nothing and ended up being very, very successful. So in the back of my mind, I thought bills were going to come and he had the money to pay for them. I never thought of anything other than his care. And then he passed and there were no bills. So I just kept thinking it's a system, it's taking longer, they'll show up, and they didn't. Well, what I learned was there's two kinds of Medicare plans, and my dad was on a Medicare supplement, and he paid a bill every month. In his case, he prepaid it for the year to get an additional discount. And when you buy a supplement, you don't pay anything anywhere at any doctor anywhere in the United States of America. It's one of the options on Medicare. Some people look at that as expensive healthcare, ivory tower, fancy. I look at it as an option. And if it's in your budget, I would like to encourage most people to choose that option. Not because I want to spend your money or make it go away faster, because I don't want you to lose money. And I want you to experience family time, good health care, and enjoyment of your days when we get to that sunset days before heaven. So it started me thinking when I had a personal financial crisis and the end of a marriage when my husband of 28 years passed away. I had two kids to raise, and I was 53 years old, and I was a 28-year stay-at-home mom. So during the journey of trying to figure out how to make ends meet, a friend of mine said, come help me with Medicare. And I watched her do this and thought, oh, I can do that. So it was really, I would say, a combination, a good thing, a God thing, and a happy result.
Beautiful.
So from that point on, I just started scrambling, if you don't mind me saying that, because I found that I needed the money. And then I found that people started referring me. And now I sit back and answer the phone and help people every day by appointment, answering their questions and helping with their plans.
That's wonderful. You know, I went through the same thing with my daddy and grew up in wealth. And so, you know, just assume that everything's taken care of. But when my mom got cancer, she came up to me and she was crying and she had this bill in her hand and said, honey, you can share this with your clients. I go, what, Mom? And I looked at it. It was a bill for $90,000 for 5 days of chemo. So she had chemo 5 days every month for a year. So $1 million is not a lot of money. People think, oh, I have $1 million, I'm going to self-insure. And back, in our parents' days, there was a huge resistance, like, oh, Medicare is going to cover long-term care. And a lot of population really thinks Medicare will cover, they
Yep.
cover the first, right? 20 days, you copay the next 90, and after 100, you're on your own, right?
Hmm.
And most people don't
Yep.
understand that.
And some people get confused because if you have the misfortune of being sick in October, those 100 days lapse into the next year, which recharges with another 100 days. So it goes into April of the following year, and it looks like they've got long-term care because they were cared for 6 months. But it was just the timing of the year. You get 100 days every year of bank account. It doesn't accumulate. It's just 100 days every year. But sometimes it rolls over into New Year's Eve and you get another 100 in your bank account.
But you're
Those are
saying
the lucky people who got sick.
but oh, lucky, but don't get sick in October? Is that what you're saying? It doesn't, it
No,
will.
if you get sick in October, you're actually fortunate because your October, November, December months use up 90 days, but you've got 10 more. And brand new New Year's Eve, you get another 100.
My goodness. All right. He hit the jackpot. All right. I never
So you
knew
see
that.
how it's confusing to some
It
people? They know
totally,
someone who was in for 6 months and Medicare paid for it.
it's
It was
totally
just timing.
confusing. Yeah. Yeah. There's so many moving parts to it. So, and it's a maze to navigate. So,
Mhm.
what is the most surprising or unusual situation you've encountered while helping someone find the right Medicare plan?
They're amazing, wonderful, fabulous friends. They give them misinformation.
Hmm.
Friends don't let friends take Medicare advice from anyone other than a broker, expert, professional, because those friends will say, you're going to have a late enrollment penalty if you don't go on Part B.
Mm, right.
You're going to, why would you buy a Medicare supplement when there's an Advantage plan for $0? Uh, oh, sign up for Medicare. It doesn't matter. You can use group insurance and Medicare. There's
Mm,
all kinds of things out there. Or they say, my plan's fabulous, which I want every client of mine to say, my plan's fabulous. That doesn't mean it's fabulous for the next person. There's lots of nuances that can happen inside of that A, B, C, and D circle that make it perfect for one person that I speak with and not so perfect for the next one. So there is no one size fits all. And
that's
friends
right.
usually
Right.
transport the message poorly.
Right. Right. Because they don't understand. And there's,
Yeah.
and like I said, there's so many moving parts to it. And many of our listeners are probably wondering what's the most common misconception people have about Medicare that often leads to costly mistakes.
Being very smart and thinking you can do this yourself because it is easy A, B, C, and D. However, it's got nuances and difficulties that can set you up for failure. And if it's too late, it's too late. If I can talk with you at any time, my advice is get an annual plan review the same way you get an annual physical. Get your broker to say, is this still working for me? I'm 66 years old. I could be on a Medicare Advantage plan in my part of the world because there's $0, $0 copays, $0 deductible, and a network of doctors that I see. But next year, I find out that my downhill ski racing days, which are long behind me, have caused me to get a hip replacement and
Oh,
not just one, but two.
ooh.
And they cost about $85,000. And I could be liable for something that I never paid attention to in that fabulous $0 plan called the out of pocket maximum.
Mm,
And in my plan, if I pick that zero in San Diego, it's about $8,900. And if I need to have skilled nursing or rehab, I have limited days. If I picked a supplement and paid $104 a month for a Medicare supplement every month, not the zero, the 104, I wouldn't pay a bill. I could
mm,
go anywhere I want. I could have any doctor operate on me and I would be my dad. I would never have a bill. And hopefully I'll be my dad and live beyond 90.
Mm,
So
yeah.
it's it's easy to unwind if you come to me before you're in the hospital already suffering from something and you're looking at some big bills. I can't unwind your bills, but I can get ahead of them. And people can spend $2,000 to $3,000 a year, too much money on the wrong plan. So
Mm. Well, I need,
navigating
yeah,
is good.
navigating is good. And I'm, see, you've even got my attention. I'm going to have to talk to you personally because, it can't, after the person I work with, hello, are you there? Is there something different I should be looking at? I'm in the same thing. It's just going to keep staying there. But that it's so important to have someone like I help people navigate healthy money and protect their assets from market loss and estate planning, living trusts. And if you, well, I've done it 33 years. I've never had a problem, never lost a dime in the stock market, but it's only because of the experience. And I can tell you have the experience that I would want to talk to you, right? And heart. You got that, the God thing heart. So I like that part too. Um,
Oh,
but
good.
many, right? Many of our listeners are probably wondering, you know, well, there's so many things. Like I had a client that went through a hospital thing, and they've been healthy, and everything's been good for them. And all of a sudden, they had a TIA, and it still was a blessing in the sense it was just like a little sparkle. It wasn't didn't really incapacitate them, slowed them down a little bit,
Good.
and they're going to recover just fine. But in the meantime, the doctor laid the fear of God on him and said, "You got to take this prescription to eliminate the blood clots." So then they get on the thing and they're like finding out that the prescription is $600 a month, and the person's living paycheck to paycheck, can't work now, and and they're past retirement age, and everybody's working past retirement age these days. So it's what do people do that can't afford these humongous drug prices?
Well, they find someone like me. And what I do is I dig into their information. I don't do the finances the way you do. I just ask financial questions and apologize ahead of time and ask permission for the information. Usually they're willing to share it. If they make nationally gross income of $1,550 or less a month and have a few other qualifying issues, for example, they can't have a living trust, that they can't have a trust, they can't have a brokerage account, they can't have a 401k, they can't have a lot of money in the bank. Although I can point them toward you and have them set up a living trust and move all that money in light of day, honest as the day is long. They're called gosh, I'm trying to think of the name of the trust. But you can put your money away
You mean
and into a trust.
the irrevocable trust? You mean? The
Yes,
the
thank you.
irrevocable, right? There's revocable where you're in charge. Irrevocable takes it out of your control and
Out
someone.
of your hands. And so then your actual income is under 2,000 a month of cash,
Hmm.
very little money in the bank account, and 1550 or less a month. Sounds like your friend with the small TIA might be that person. And if they have
Hmm.
funds, they could move them
They
out of
don't have
the
fun.
way.
These people don't have money. They've.
So that would be LIS, low income subsidy at 1550, and probably Medicaid
Hmm.
combination. If their Medicaid qualifies them, there's 5 ladders. So think of yourself as climbing 5 steps. If you're on the bottom 3 steps, you get your Part B paid for. So that 164.90 goes away. And
Hmm.
that's forever. The drugs become low cost or no cost, $3, $5, $0. And they get a lot of help.
Mm.
It's not always easy for them to know when they qualify. I've met people in low income housing that are all living together in an environment where everybody's maybe making $1,000 a month, and none of them knew about free meds qualifying for LIS. And I've helped them all get free meds. In fact, that apartment complex invites me back every year. So I meet all their new residents.
Right. Right.
Uh, Unfortunately, we can't get a billboard on the side of the freeway that says, let me help you with your medications for free. Unfortunately, there's too many people random calling you saying they can do that and they can't or shouldn't. So it's because of laws that we can't advertise. So you wouldn't want me on your bus bench because that would make it inappropriate. But when you do have someone to call and an insurance agent that knows someone who just does Medicare, we all do the same thing. Now, hopefully, we're all amazing,
Right.
And we dig into the details. But sometimes it takes the client to speak up and say, ouch, I don't have the money, and the eloquence is expensive.
Exactly. And it's hard for people, especially if you've had money and then now it's like, oh man, I can't afford that. And the stress of paying their mortgage and inflation and where we're at in the world. Yeah. So, yeah, you definitely need someone that knows the map, knows the trails. And now, if you get on Medicaid, what is the new, I know that in California they have a recovery. So your car is exempt, your house is exempt, right? But do they now come back if you pass away and recover on any of your, like, say, your real estate or any other assets?
Yes. And unfortunately, I know some people who inherited money from a Medicaid recipient, and because your house doesn't feed you, I like to say, so your house
Right.
is non-qualifying. Your car doesn't feed you, so it doesn't qualify. And once you pass, if you're in California, your possible rundown house because you've been sick and you've owned it since 1930, that place that doesn't look so fabulous is worth $1 million or more.
Right.
So the kids sell it, they divide it, and then they get a tax bill.
Mm.
It's about $6,000 to as much as $10,000 per year for every year you're on it. The state has too
Oh.
many people, they don't have enough people chasing it down, so you sometimes get away with it. I think it's frustrating for the kids who thought they could take the money and run, but they owe it.
Yeah. Right. Now they figured it out. They've got it on the tax rolls. So they sell the house, and if you're on Medicaid, not Medi-Cal in California, then they can recover and take out 6,000 per what? For a year?
$6,000 to $10,000 per year for every year you've been on it. That's really very little money for the state to recover because they usually paid a lot more than that.
Right.
But I think our resources are pretty thin right now, and they're very poor at collecting that.
Right.
But it can be, and you can't hide from it.
No. And they have a 5-year look back period too, right? So if you transfer your money to your kids or even give money to a grandkid for college, that would be considered fraudulent transfer, right?
Every state's different. Florida, they do it a lot more aggressively.
Oh.
But I think Florida and California have the highest instance of Medi-Cal, Medicare fraud. So there's a lot of people doing it. Like, we'll hurry up and qualify your family member for Medicaid or Medi-Cal so that they can get in-home care subsidized for free. Assisted living waivers is what it's called. Okay. So, yeah, I hate it, but there are some people who cheat.
Yeah, well, what goes around comes around. I mean, you don't get away with anything.
I agree.
So, right. It's your loss, really. So, but Tracy, your goal is to help people achieve zero cost lifetime connections, basically, with Medicare. So maybe share a success story that you have that stands out. Right.
I have a great one. I share this
smile,
a lot.
Big smile.
Because it's awesome. Oh, I had a lovely scientist gentleman and his wife that invented this technology that you have to be like a rocket science to do. So smart. And he bragged to me when he met me. I've been on Medicare. I'm 74 and I've never gone on Medicare because Medicare is for poor people. I have private insurance and I pay $3,000 a month and I go to Scripps Hospital in San Diego and I get all my doctors. And I said, well, my friend, what would you think if I could show you a plan at that same hospital with those same doctors that's $0 a month.
Mm.
And he said, it's got to be for poor people. I said, no, it's for wealthy people and smart people and people who know how to navigate the system. Well, he said, I take an additional $600 a month of medication. Great. Let's look at that. Let's find some different ways to buy it. Let's go to some US discount pharmacies and maybe a Canadian pharmacy, and let's see what we can do to get that down. I got it down to $0 a month instead of $3,000. And it gets doubly worse. His wife was 4 years younger. So for 3 years, she's been on the same plan at $3,000 a month. So they were paying $72,000 a year for a plan that $0 sufficiently covered.
Mm.
And this is the largest save I've done. And they were paying $600 for meds that they ended up only paying $400 for. They would have paid less if they would take mail order, but they refused to do that. And eventually, about 6 months into it, the guy has the nerve to call me and say, Tracy, why am I paying $400 a month for meds? This is a lot of money. And I just laughed. I said, let's go to lunch. You owe me for this. I'm going to go through how much I saved you and why $400 a month is nothing. And we had this wonderful friendship because sometimes smart people think they know everything. And I love smart people because without them, we wouldn't have engineers and doctors
Right.
and physicists and lawyers. But Medicare is not that complicated, and you can spend too much.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And, you know, that's what puzzled me even, I mean, I just had it for the last year or two myself, and I'm looking at like, why am I paying? I thought this thing was, I put it money in and now I'm paying all this. It's like something's not right. And I literally I didn't really realize it by inviting you to the show because I wanted to share the information, but your information is so important that, it's like getting a second opinion. You go to the doctor, you get a second opinion. I would get 3 or 4. And I just pick people's brains and, what's the best. Same with what you do. It's so important because it sounds like you can save people a lot of money and get these plans set up with zero cost or lifetime connections. It's fabulous.
And if you do a supplement which has a monthly premium,
mm-hmm.
the mistake people make sometimes is they love their very first company. Did you know there's a financial statistic that most people have the first credit card they've ever had still in their wallet?
No,
the people don't change much.
Yeah,
they might have other credit cards, but
right.
B of A was my first credit card at 16 years old, and I still have a B of A Visa.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it's interesting that some people sign up for Medicare and they buy a supplement from one of the major companies or one you've never heard of, and they don't leave. When I come to meet them, I'll say, wow, Sally, did you know you're paying $100 a month more than with ABC Company? And I have DEF Company here that's identical with $100 a month savings. 6 months ago, I saved a gentleman $200 a month. $2,400 a year times 10 years is $24,000 that they could have invested with you.
Right.
And made a difference in their life, not just paid an insurance bill.
Exactly.
So sometimes the exact same thing is available for a lower price. But among most of my older clients, change might as well be a 4-letter swear word. It's hard.
Right. It is hard.
So,
it is hard. Yeah.
It's hard. But when go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you. It is an emotional, it's just like you said, I've always banked it. And this is what I find with people moving their money. I've always banked a Bank of America, and it's so much emotion around, money really is just energy. It really isn't, it's just a piece of paper right now, but it is an emotion.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's another podcast, but it is overwhelming, and you've simplified, and it sounds like for that person and the people you work with in such a unique and creative way. That's what it sounds like.
It's fun. We connect with everybody. Our goal is at least once a year. I send out a monthly newsletter with everything from silly jokes to happy birthday, Sarah, John,
Mm-hmm.
Pam. And once a year, at the very least, you'll be on the phone with one of our agents saying, is this still working for you? Are you still healthy, bulletproof Tracy? Or are you needing a little more tweaking? And how is your health going? Because your plan may need to be switched. And people are very unfamiliar with the fact that you can change your plan almost every month of the year if you're on a supplement plan.
Oh,
There's no open enrollment
oh my
beyond the
goodness.
first 6 months.
Both
Yeah, they all think it's fall.
everybody. Oh
So
yeah,
I
and then
tell
if
my
you,
med sup,
mhm.
you don't have to call me in the fall if you're on a med sup. In fact, I would love it if we talked in your birth month. That's
Mm.
my time to talk to most of my people. So if you're born in January, we'll talk in January simply because I get to say happy birthday.
Uh-huh.
And then I hear how you are, and we do your annual Medicare physical.
Fabulous. So, and when you say med sub, like that would be like, say, you have Medicare Advantage or United Healthcare or some other company that's like attached to that, right? Okay. Interesting.
There's
Very
two kinds of
interesting.
Medicare, and I like
Okay.
to think of them as chocolate ice cream and vanilla ice cream. They both taste great, but they're
Mm-hmm.
very different.
Okay.
So, chocolate ice cream and vanilla ice cream. Vanilla is the Medicare Advantage plan that's very attractive. It's almost every advertisement talks about them.
Mm-hmm.
$0 or very low cost network plans that keep you in a golden prison cell
Yeah.
because you have the key to get in and out. Meals get delivered to you daily. You have a beautiful, comfy bed and comforter, but it is a golden prison cell. Your Medicare is in the box, and you are tied to that company. And it could be, as you mentioned, United
Mm.
Healthcare. They're a big advertiser.
Right.
Uh, but it could be Aetna, Humana, HealthNet,
Mm-hmm.
Cigna. There's all kinds of United companies that get out there and sell these advantage plans that put you in a box and your Medicare is tied to it. So when you travel to Wyoming
Mm-hmm.
and you decide to go, say, fly fishing, and you need to see a doctor on an advantage plan, you can only go to an urgent care or an emergency room. You can't go to my favorite doctor in Hamilton, Montana to get the barbed hook out of your finger and fix your finger. You got
Mm.
to go to urgent care or an emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on a Medicare supplement plan, your Medicare isn't in a box and you're not tied to a company. You are the queen of your universe or the king if you're a guy out there watching.
Right.
I call it the Willy Wonka golden ticket. You go anywhere you want. You see anyone you want. So when you go skiing in Utah or you go to Naples, Florida for the winter, and something happens with your scratchy throat or you get poison ivy from hiking, you go say, hey, Kris, who's your favorite doctor in the area? And you go, you get to do what you want for your health needs where you want, and you pay no copay. You get no bill. So the difference is pay and go everywhere, don't pay and get in the box. It depends on the person and their health, and there's reasons to do each one, which we find out when we talk.
You really are a designer Medicare specialist. I mean, you're like platinum. I mean, I've talked, I've been in the business, in my business for a number of years. I've never specialized in this, and I've talked with a lot of people, but they're at a different level. You're at a wonderful level. I'm really, really honored that you came to join me to have this great conversation. I'm sure it's going to help lots of people. And for everyone to reach out and ask Tracy, how do they get in contact with you?
Well, I have a website, asktracyb.com. And on that site, you can download a really cool ebook that I wrote called The Five Biggest Medicare Mistakes That Even Smart People Make. Easy to read, very small little explanations of what each of those five things are. As we said earlier, one of them is friends don't let friends help with your Medicare decisions unless they're referring you to me.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
we can't charge, no one pays us. There's no big secret commission. It's $25 and every company pays us the same. So if you're doing your job correctly, you're dialing into the person you're talking to and getting them the best plan.
That's it right there. And I could feel your heart of compassion and caring, which is what I look for in people. Like, okay, she does care and wants to know. So Tracy, it's wonderful to actually meet you and talk with you. And I am going to look you up a little bit later and have you review my plan. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right.
And I won't send you a bill.
Yay! And I'll tell my
I like to
friends.
say you pay me nothing, but I'm worth $1 million. So how's
There you
that? A little ego in there. I can't help but show a little of my sarcasm and my humor in there.
Nothing wrong with that. Look, if you're good, and blessings come from God, so you know that. So that's the heart. That's the beautiful part.
Amen. It's
All
not
right.
me.
That's
I
right.
have only God to thank for it.
That's right. Thank you so much, Tracy. It's been a joy to have you. Thank you so much, Tracy, for joining us today on Money 911. Your insights into Medicare have been eye-opening, and I'm sure our listeners have gained valuable knowledge. Remember, folks, avoiding Medicare mistakes can save you a lot of money and stress in the long run. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, Tracy. And if you're listening and want to connect with Tracy or learn more about her services, be sure to check out the show notes for all the details. Until next time, this is Kris Miller signing off from Money 911, where we're always here to help you make the most of your money. Healthy money, happy life. There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithkrismiller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.